Welcome back to another clay video. Today we are going to create Kirby's animal friends. I'm going to start out with Gooey. He's kind of the oddball here because he's not technically one of the animal friends, although he typically gets lumped into them. My initial idea was to indent the mouth and fill it in with red, but yeah, this didn't work out very well, so I'm going to chop that off and just build the face on the surface. One of the things I love about Gooey is just how weird and brainless he is. That's what makes him one of my favorite Kirby characters. Let's start working on that super long tongue. Usually for something like this you'd want to use a wire, but I'm going to have this sitting on the ground so it's actually going to hold itself up. And Gooey is ready to get baked. Wait, what are you doing, Gooey? No! 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 In Dreamland 2, we get introduced with 3 animal friends, a hamster, a fish, and a bird. In Dreamland 3, we get another 3 animals, a cat, another bird, and whatever Choo Choo is. So I'm going to start out by creating Rick the hamster. Throughout the video, you'll see the background change multiple times, and that's because these were all going to be individual videos. I was doing this format where I post videos very frequently, but I'm going to go back to my original format of making very high detailed videos not as often. So after a few background changes, it will be back to my original table, and from that point forward, that's what you'll be seeing in all of my videos. Rick is one of the coolest, fire-breathing, Kirby-carrying hamsters out there. Well, he's the only one, but he's still really cool. The final detail on Rick is some whiskers, and originally I wanted to use some wires and paint them black, but I think it's going to be much easier to just use some clay. After baking, we can cut this into a few little pieces and then slide it into the unbaked clay. Now we can bake the whole figure, and it seems like the whiskers stay in place very nicely. Next up is going to be the fish. We can start with a slightly teardrop shape and then work on making the mouth in the front. This was a little bit short, but we can stretch that to fit. Because of the odd shape of this character, I'm going to have to bake it multiple times. It's always tricky making a character like this where you can't see both sides at the same time, and you have to evenly match the details. These are going to be the side flippers, and then we can put it on its mouth and work on the back flipper. And then we also have 2 tiny flippers on the top and bottom. These probably aren't all called flippers, but they are now. Since this is a water-based character, I want to create a stand that reflects that. So I'm creating this little rocky pond. In the center, I have a few little splashes coming up, and that's what we're going to attach the character onto. But first, I want to try out this liquid Sculpey. Typically for this type of thing, I use Fimo liquid gel, but it's really hard to find, and it's also very expensive. But I've heard good things about this, so I'm going to give it a try. After baking, the fish turned out amazing, but the base kind of looks like it had a bunch of air bubbles. So how do we fix this? I guess we can just put another coating of clay on it, but this time I slightly swirled together some blue and white. And then we're going to stick some gloss on top of it. And yes, 2 drops surprisingly spreads across the entire thing. I think that actually looks really good, and better than it would have looked with the liquid clay. For our next character, we're going to need some purple, and I happen to have this kind of gross purple laying around, and I think if we mix it with some dark purple, it's going to be a pretty good match. With a quick clap, we have a perfect mix. I apologize for this scene, I have no idea why my hands are so shaky. Let's take some white for the pad of the stomach, and then we can add on these little kind of diamond shapes. Now the eyes are pretty complicated because we have this spiky pattern underneath the eyeballs. And finally, a little white dot on the top. The wings are split in half, so the bottom section is black and the top is purple. We can indent some feathers and then stick them onto the body. Looking back, it would have been a cool idea to make this character flying and have it float with some type of wire, but that requires planning, and that's something I don't do on this channel. Finally, let's add in some feet, and our bird is ready to get baked. The collection is stacking up very nicely. Next, we need another bird. This bird is very simple. So to give it a little bit more life, I decided to create this little bird nest. Finally, two little eyes and feathers on the top, and our bird is already done. Next is Choo Choo, the obviously not an animal friend. This character is kind of like a slime, so we need to make all of these dents that make it look a little bit more liquidy. Guys, I think I accidentally made a Pac-Man ghost. Let's add in a mouth, and hopefully this will look a little bit less like Pinky. Finally, we have Kirby's rosy cheeks, and then we need a bow on the back of the head. After we get that into place, we can slap a little piece into the middle, and Choo Choo is complete. Now, the final animal to create is the cat. This one is very similar to the hamster, but slightly different. Moving on to the face, we have a tiny pink nose followed by a very carefully placed smile. We're gonna need some more whiskers, and I know I put those somewhere. Oh, here we go, just where I left it. Let's bake our final character, and then we can start working on the stand. I gotta say, it was really fun making a high detailed creation again, and I'm really excited to keep going on these big ones. I'm basing the stand off of a bunch of different levels. I went through a video that shows the first stage in every Kirby game, and I took inspiration by combining a bunch of them together. So we have the wavy dirt lines, which we can also see in a lot of Mario games, but then we also have some things stuck in it, like some stars. So I created this little paper cutout, and it worked perfectly to make these stars. I think after we place these on the side, it really makes it look like Kirby. The clay wasn't sticking to the wood very well, so I had to use some more of this liquid clay. We're gonna coat the entire top level with a nice grassy green. I feel like most of you don't know from watching the videos, but I never plan these things ahead of time. All I knew is that I wanted to make the Kirby animal friends. I had no idea what the base was going to look like or where the characters were going to be, so I just kind of had to make it up along the way. You might think this is disorderly and not very efficient, but actually, it leaves a lot of room for creativity that you wouldn't have otherwise had. It really makes you think and problem solve how you could fit everything in and what would look best. I knew I needed one of the characters to be raised up, so I decided to create some of these iconic star blocks and place GUI on top of them. No matter what I did, I could not figure out how to get all of the characters to fit on the stage. So I decided, hamsters like to dig, right? So let's cut the hamster in half and make it look like it's popping out of the ground like Diglett. I'm not actually sure why I curved the arms on Choo Choo, but it's obvious she should be holding something, so let's throw a tomato in there. And for the cat, I want to create a nice little yarn ball. I think this looks really good, so let's get that into place. That is our final detail, so now we are ready to get baked. After baking, there's nothing else we have to do, so here it is, Kirby's Animal Friends. I hope you all enjoyed the video. This was so much fun to create. If you want to see more clay creations like this, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.